Abraham Lincoln was born February 12, 1809. He had a sister named Sarah who was 2 years older than him, and his parents were Nancy and Thomas Lincoln. Abe's mother often read the Bible to him and his sister and taught them how to read it as well. In 1816, the Lincolns moved to Indiana. When Abe grew older, he built a river raft to take some things down to New Orleans for a friend. When he got there, he saw a slave market. He had been raised without slaves, so he disagreed and often remembered what Jefferson had said in the Declaration of Independence, that all men were created equal in the sight of God. When he returned from New Orleans, he found that his family had moved west. He decided to move to New Salem, where he earned the nickname of Honest Abe. There he became a clerk, a postman, and a blacksmith. The people in New Salem knew his love for reading, so they would often loan books to him. He started to study law and met someone named Mentor Graham, who taught him more about law. Then he ran for state legislature. After that, he moved to Springfield to study more law. There he met Mary Todd, who he soon married. In 1843, Mary gave birth to a son, which they named Robert. The Lincolns soon moved to a new place in Springfield where they could raise their children. In 1846, Mary gave birth to their second son, Edward. In 1850, Edward got sick and soon passed away. Mary and Abe missed Edward so much, but soon that sadness was overcome when later in 1850, Mary gave birth to her third son, William. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln became the 16th president. But soon the South split off and started their own country. This soon started the war, because in 1861, the Confederate States fired on Fort Sumter. This saddened Abraham because he didn't want his country to be having a war against itself. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln made the Emancipation Proclamation that he knew would weaken the South. And the Emancipation Proclamation said that all the slaves in any of the states that is fighting against the North, their slaves would be free. Later, after the Battle of Gettysburg, the Union decided to make Gettysburg into a cemetery, and then President Lincoln made a speech called Gettysburg Address, saying, 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We can come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives, that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. When the Union decided to do what we call now Sherman's March to the Sea, Abraham Lincoln didn't really like what had happened at Sherman's March to the Sea, but he knew that he would help the South as soon as the war was over. At the end of 1864, General Lee of the Confederate States of America surrendered, and then the war was over. And now truly, all of the slaves were now free. But when he went to Ford's Theater, he was shot and soon died the next day at the house right across the street from Ford's Theater. Everyone grieved his death, even the South. Some things we have to remember and honor him are his picture on the $5 bills and pennies, the Lincoln Memorial, books on him, and others. Abraham Lincoln was born February 12, 1809. He had a sister named Sarah who was 2 years old.